Welcome to the regularly scheduled meeting of February 19, 2019 of the Township of Washington Township Council. Adequate notice of the meeting was given in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act by the Township Clerk to at least 2 newspapers in January, and this meeting has been posted on the Township Bulletin Board and on the Township website. Please notify the Township Clerk for any disability requirements necessary for attendance at mayor and council meetings. The fire exits are located through the double doors to your right and through the door on your left. Please silence all cell phones. Would everybody please stand for a salute to the flag? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Mr. Bruno.
Councilman Bruno?
Here.
Councilman Casio?
Here.
Councilman Cumming?
Here.
Councilman Ullman?
Here.
Council President DeSena?
Here. Let the record reflect also in attendance is Mayor Calamari, Township Administrator Tovo, Township Attorney Poller, CFO Curran, and Township Clerk Witkowski. Reading of total list of bills, none. Approval of minutes, none. Appointment to the Fire Department. A membership application from Keith P. Mahoney for the Township of Washington Volunteer Fire Department. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Councilman Bruno?
Yes.
Councilman Casio?
Yes.
Councilman Cumming?
Yes.
Councilman Ullman?
Yes.
Council President DeSena?
Yes.
Time out. I'm sorry, I have no volume. Sorry. You might have that, but I don't have volume. All right, can you just tell me, the switch is on the side of that, right, Michael?
Yes, it's lit.
Oh, God, I don't know what's going on with this.
Hello.
I don't know what's going on. It's recording and the sound. So you know what? We're just gonna have to wing it tonight, people. I'm sorry. I don't know why.
Mr. DeSena,
Yes.
It's not-
before we move to the next item on the general public discussion, I was wondering if we could suspend the agenda and have a discussion regarding the closed session from last meeting.
Sure. Would you like, you're going to make a motion?
I would like to make a motion to suspend the agenda and have a discussion on the closed session from the meeting of February 4th.
Is this to discuss what was...
It's to discuss the reasons we went into closed session,
Okay.
the fact that after meeting for...
Well, why don't you just make a motion?
Okay.
Move it.
So I moved.
Second.
Roll call on the motion by Mr. Ullman?
Councilman Bruno?
Yes.
Councilman Casio?
No.
Councilman Cumming?
No.
Councilman Ullman?
Yes?
Council President DeSena?
No. Thank you, Mr. Ullman.
All right.
A motion to open to the public discussion?
So moved.
Second.
Councilman Bruno?
No.
Councilman Casio?
Yes.
Councilman Cumming?
Yes.
Councilman Ullman?
Yes.
Council President DeSena?
Yes. If anybody would like to come up at this time and address the council, please do so. State your name and address, or who you represent.
Thank you. Meeting Council President, members of the council, Mayor. John J. Lamb from the law firm of B.B. Padavano. We represent a citizens group called the Concerned Neighbors of Washington Township Incorporated. You may have seen my letter of February 15, 2019. I note that it's not on the agenda.
We do have it, Mr. Lamb.
Thank you. It's not on the agenda, but that's because it came very late Friday night, and I actually thought that my office was open on Monday, and I was going to deliver it on Monday when my assistant informed me.
Can you please sit down and speak into the microphone so the public can hear you, please?
In any case, what I just wanted to do very briefly is not repeat the entire contents of the letter. What we are essentially reviewing is, the township is presented with a request that the township consent to a specific application that's pending before its planning board. And in connection with that, my client has objected to the consent for various reasons. And again, I'm not going to go through the entire piece of information, but we want and ask the township to carefully review what it is provided by the developer. We find that the developer, to be kind, has been less than candid and frank with the township as well as the planning board. Essentially, we recently found out that the developer sold a substantial portion of its property interest to other parties, or transferred, I shouldn't say sell or transferred a portion of its property to other property owners. And it's not that this happened within the last 30 or 60 days. It did it, I think it was 2009. I might have the year wrong. So essentially, everybody's been dealing with Mr. Viviano, except for the fact that he is only apparently one of, I think, 5 or 6 owners at the current time. This has a lot of complications because you have an agreement with just Mr. Viviano. You have Mr. Viviano applying for a planning board application. So what happened is when we got involved and started making comments on the planning board application, that's when it came to light that when we were scrutinizing the application, that he was no longer the full owner of it. So that was one issue. Another issue we ascertained was that all the variances that were granted by the planning board back in 2012 had expired. And so essentially the prior application needs all new variances, and actually Mr. Shimanowitz, to his credit, did acknowledge that we were correct and that he does need all new variances. That wasn't provided in the letter to the township requesting the consent. So I think that's something that you should know about. What was also not provided is a full copy of the plans. You got 1 page of the site plan, and you only got the final plat. However, in the last 30 days, this developer has withdrawn its final site plan and subdivision application. So essentially, after 18 years, it's still at its preliminary site plan and preliminary subdivision application. I put in my letter and I went through a lot of the documents that we had
Mr.
available.
Lamb, can you hold on 1 second?
Sure.
Mr. Pollard, we have to extend his period. He's over the
Yes.
5-minute mark.
Yeah, I think you should.
Council, is it okay if we extend Mr. Lamb's presentation? He's over the 5-minute mark, and I just don't want anybody to question us that we gave him more than 5 minutes. Is everybody okay with that?
No.
Well, let me just say this too. In lieu of 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people coming up and going through a list of questions or points or raising the same type of things that are being talked about now, the time would be used up. And I think, in fairness, he is representing a group of people who could come up for the public discussion and take up all that time. So I don't think it's giving him extra time. I think it's giving him...
I just want to put, he's over the 5-minute
yeah,
limit,
okay,
and
yeah.
I know
I'm just giving you my...
That's fair, and I'll wrap it up in 60 seconds.
Okay.
I appreciate, I want to stay within the guidelines. And essentially, we're asking the township, there's a lot of legal issues here, a lot of facts, a lot of documents involved, and what we suggested is that before you act on this, you have the opinion of Mr. Pollard. He's well-versed in real estate and these types of matters. This is a complicated matter, and, I'm putting on our position. The developer may have a different position, although he hasn't replied to this, but it only came Friday night. So I think you should review with Mr. Pollard. I may disagree with what Mr. Pollard advises you, but I think it would be prudent for you to at least consider what he has to say, probably in closed session, but consider what he has to say and make a decision as to whether you're going to grant consent. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lamb.
May I make a comment?
Mr. Pollard, should we make any comments?
Well,
Or will we
comment,
prejudice the application?
I don't want to have a substantive discussion. I mean, if you have some sort of procedural question, that's fine, but...
No, I just wanted to comment on the letter that was written.
Oh, no, don't do that. Don't do that.
Would anybody else like to come up and address the council at this time? Mrs. Grimaldi?
Diane Grimaldi, 441 Van Emberg Avenue. This town has a tree ordinance where you have to get permission to cut down trees. And does the town or the planning board need to give permission to the Vivianos to cut down their trees on their property? Since they're, they have the woodlands management plan, I know that they can harvest some trees, but there's a lot more points in this management plan where they have to be good stewards to the property.
The property maintenance officer, once we received your email this morning, went to the site. There was no active tree cutting going on when
No,
we got
it happened earlier.
Okay, well, I'm just
And
letting you know.
it's been happening.
I'm just letting you know what occurred, and he's in the process of reviewing your tree, your woodland tree, because we don't.
No, it's the state. And it's
Yeah, no, but
Viviano's woodland tree.
he's in the process of reviewing it and figuring out, do they need a tree permit or do they
So
not?
in the meantime, do they have to stop cutting down trees until it's reviewed?
Well, Mr. Tovo, you were right, Mr. Sedekase went out there this morning, and there was no evidence, he can't enter the property, so from the perimeter, he could not see.
So as long as they're doing it before hours and after hours?
We will be in contact with them tomorrow to have them cease until we review it.
Thank you, that's what I was asking.
There's your answer.
Okay, because damage is already done, but I don't want to see a clear-cut property.
As soon as your email was sent to me and the rest of the council, I sent it to the mayor, Mr. Tovo, Mr. Sedekase, and
I did
Mr.
try to
Tovo
reach
sent
Mr. Tovo. I spoke to Bernadette before I sent that email. Okay, thank you.
Is Mr. Sedekase the enforcement officer for the tree ordinance?
That is correct.
Gary's no longer with us. Would anybody else like to come up and address the council at this time? Yep. I didn't know if you were making...
Michael Agrada, 176 Fern Street, Township. I've been here a couple of times pertaining to the cleanup of the snow. It seems that my street, or at least my area, always has a problem with the cleanup. I understand that the town wants it clean, I get it, but I think there's a way of doing it so it doesn't have to make the resident do it all over. I have pictures, this time I have pictures, and I made copies for everybody. The last snowstorm that we had the low storm that was mixed with the ice and all that, I cleaned everything, my sidewalk, my aprons, my everything. I get up the next morning, it's right back to what it was. Aprons covered, sidewalks are covered. I got pictures of, I don't know what kind of tire this is, but it's coming from, I think, a truck where the snow has been pushed and it's all over the grass and onto my sidewalk, and the apron's just as bad. I was told that the mayor would talk to them and see what's going on, but this is now my 4th time being here pertaining to the snow. Every time we have a snowstorm, I don't understand what's going on. I'm really getting tired of cleaning it twice. I just don't get it. And I have pictures, so if everybody wants to take a look at it, you can see exactly. This is the first time I've ever seen tire tracks like this. And this is right against the curb.
Yeah, I'd like to copy of it.
You can have it. I'm just asking for some help.
We need to plow curb to curb, Mr. Lagrada. That's the...
I understand I understand the curb to curb, but I think there's a way of doing it where it's not a speed of the truck coming up, where it's coming like an avalanche, because to me, this is like an avalanche. It's being pushed so far that it's going over the grass and onto my sidewalk, so there's speed behind it. And prior to the curb to curb, for the last 25 years I lived in this town, on a side street, we've managed. Everybody takes care of their property in front of it, and the traffic goes up and down with not an issue. The curb to curb, whether it's good or bad or indifferent. The problem is, I think there's a way of doing it that I and my neighbors don't have to go back out again and do it again. That's all I'm asking is for some help. So, thank you.
This is your 5th time here again?
Fourth.
4th. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Mrs. Osmond? Mr. Durso was next, Mrs. Osmond. Hold on.
Oh, sorry, Joe. No. This is a quick one. Mary Ann Osmond, 960 Adams Place. The only reason I wasn't going to get up, but Mr. DeSena, you've said many times we should have curb to curb.
Yes.
Well, I wish I did. There's always 4 to 5 feet from both sides. It nowhere goes curb to curb, where I live at least. Now, I live on a hill.
What street do you live on?
Adams Place. It's on a hill off of between Hoover and Jackson. No way does it ever go curb to
Mr.
curb.
Tobo, can we please advise the DMF to hit Adams curb to curb, please?
I mean, you've said it, and I've listened to you say it
Well,
many
they come
times.
down Beach, and Mr. Legrad only did his twice. I did mine 3 last time, so.
Well, that's
you know.
what I'm saying. So again, I've been, under the impression that we were supposed to be teaching or doing and changing something.
That was the game plan.
Okay, and that's the only reason I'm getting up, because I really wasn't going to say anything, but my husband came home from the hospital, and there was just no way that, with all the storm, he came home that day, and there was no way I was going to be able to, and I looked outside and saw how far away it was. But, I know you've said it a few times, but, and I wish...
I know everywhere I've driven, I've seen it pretty much being followed, so they may have forgotten a bunch of areas.
Well, I don't know if it's going down the hill, but he talks about speed. Today they were coming up with the brine. I've never seen anybody go up my hill that quickly. I mean, I'm traveling quite rapidly, so, I don't know who's driving it, I don't know who's doing what, but I've lived there for many years and I've never seen that kind of speed when it came to something of that nature. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Osmond. Would anybody else like to address the council? Mr. Durso?
Hi, Joe Durso, 12 Viola Terrace. No complaints with the snow. Viola's done very well, thank you. My other problem, I think you guys have received a letter from my neighbor, which I was copied on. We have a constant pooling on the top of the cul-de-sac on Viola, which I believe Bernadette, the administrator's assistant, was in contact. When it gets cold, it becomes very icy. Apparently they were out there, but if you guys could follow up, it seems like it's all, the whole street's all broken up there and hasn't been paved since 1992. But thank you. I think Bernadette had looked into it and sent a letter back, but I don't know where we go from there. But it's constantly wet, puddles up there, and it freezes. You caught my curiosity tonight. Can you at least give me the subject line of why you went into closed session last week?
Personnel.
Just personnel.
For the police department.
Okay.
Joe, I'd be happy to expand on it if you like.
Sure.
So, last meeting...
Mr. Ullman, we made a motion and seconded that we weren't going to discuss it.
No, we made a motion we weren't going to suspend the agenda. The question was asked by a resident. We've given the lawyer as much time as he wants. Mr. Durso is interested,
okay.
So I feel that I can address him.
Go ahead.
Is there an issue with that?
I believe we discussed it in closed, and the majority of the council would like to leave it in closed.
Oh, okay.
If you'd like to...
He has the right to
That's what I said.
address.
He'd like to address it.
He can address it.
So, thank you, Dr. Cassio. So at the last meeting, a motion was made to go into closed session for personnel. I didn't feel it was a descriptive enough reason, and I inquired why we were going in, and I was told it was regarding police personnel. So at the meeting, in the closed session, we discussed a number of issues. I feel personally, and I've expressed that in writing to the council, the mayor, the attorney, and the administrator, that those items did not fall under the personnel umbrella. For instance, we had a presentation on DMS. I believe it's Document Management System, which is a policy management software. Now, I don't know if you know anything about these types of systems. I don't have deep knowledge, but the way it was explained to me is it's a tool that can index and maintain policies, and it allows staff to review them, acknowledge that they've read them. To me, that's not personnel. I don't know why it would go in closed session under the cover of personnel. I questioned that, and I wanted that discussed. In addition, there was a presentation on the Pittman schedule and organizations, police organizational principles, hierarchy of authority, span of control, unity of command, delegation of authority. So these are broad concepts of how the police department should run, operating principles. Again, there was nothing in these, in my mind, that spoke to personnel.
Right.
It's a generic principle that they want to operate under. No specific staff was mentioned. No, it wasn't a personnel issue. And then there was an issue of hiring a special officer and using that officer in a particular manner. Again, I don't think that it went to personnel. And in addition, I don't feel that it was regarding a discussion on tactics and techniques, which is one of the exclusions that were allowed under the Open Public Meetings Act. Tactics and techniques utilized in protecting the safety and property of the public. So, if they were going to talk about, we just had in Aurora, a year anniversary in Parkland. If they're going to talk about active shooter, I would never expect that to be on public display.
Right.
They were talking about hiring a special police officer to direct traffic at a school. That was it.
Yeah.
So special officer directing traffic, a document management system, a discussion of Pittman. I didn't see how any of that was related to personnel. Yet we went under personnel and had at least an hour and a half discussion on all of these topics. And that was going to be my point as to why do we do that.
Appreciate the explanation. I agree with you. I don't think it, doesn't have anything to do with personnel, but that's, listen, I think all you guys are doing a good job here. I just, everybody always speaks, or maybe 6 or 7 of us that maybe pay attention in town, transparency. It's all about transparency. And again, I think all of you are doing a good job, but, the public does have a right to know, at least, again, the group that, comes in here. Mike, I want to also compliment you. Did call me from, because I did make a comment on a unofficial township Facebook post that we have. Anyway, thank you for your explanation on the form of government. It's something that for years, I tried when I was involved, and I got some education, seeing some professionals down in at Rutgers University. You did it with the league. Steve, you were involved in my discussions years ago with the former council person. 10,000 people, this was a conversation that you and I had. 10,000 people, and I know you're going to say once we're in Faulkner, which I feel is just a horrible situation for a very small town. We shouldn't be in Faulkner. We should be a borough, because I know we're borderlining based on the census and the current amount of people.
We're waiting for the response back from the gentleman who no longer, we have the new contact.
Yeah.
And
I think I appreciate your, I'm running out of time, but I just thank you for getting back to me. Not too many people ever get back, and thank you.
I try to respond to everybody.
Right, and it's just, this town is smaller to a sense, like Westwood. I always use Westwood because we share a school system. it should be 6 council people, and it should be 6 strong council people, 1 weak mayor. And not saying weak in a term, I just think that the mayor shouldn't have all that power. You know, it never should. And, you know, when it was put back in place in the 70s for whatever reasons, you know, I think it's time to really change. And thank you for the explanation. Mayor Calamari, I'm still, you know, somebody had asked you a question a week ago, or at the last meeting, or 2 weeks ago, whatever it was. You're happy with your appointments, but your council isn't. And you haven't, who are the names weren't brought up, obviously, but the positions that weren't approved by your council last year when you were brought in, does that not mean that you don't respect your council wishes? I mean, I thought it was fair. I think, you know, I have issues, you know, with, you know, certain departments that for years. I've, you know, done my homework over the years and it's gone nowhere. But if a council wants you to look for different people, shouldn't you respect their wishes?
It's not that I don't respect their wishes, but we do have differing viewpoints on certain things, and that's what makes government work, is, you know, we all get together and share our opinions. I replaced the people who I thought needed replacing, and yes, there's a few people who I consider are doing a good job, and so there's no reason to replace them. They're directors of mine, and you know, they do what I ask them to do as far as interfacing with department heads, and so they're doing a good job in my opinion.
Okay, but that, you know, that's where the lack of, you know, I joke and I say Faulkner is a dictatorship. You can do whatever you want. It doesn't matter what these 5 gentlemen say or do. So they don't agree with you, but you can override that.
On any one issue, we don't agree, but I think in the past year plus, we've been working very well as a team. There's nothing that I haven't given the council that they've asked for to my knowledge. I think, you know, we've all done a very good job, you know, turning things around from what they were. But yes, do we see eye to eye on everything?
No, no one ever does.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's just that you have that power to carry over, and that just carries over for years. So, you know, I know my time's up.
Your time is up.
But big issue, maybe somebody else will get up and talk about it, you know, the attorneys here. The planning board meeting, especially when it's high topic, like what's going on the Viviano property, you guys should probably make a motion and maybe spend some money with Washington Cable and get a volunteer to film those meetings, because it is high interest and there's a lot of people that are involved over there, you know. And I'll leave it at that, but, you know, time is up. But was that spot zone 15 years ago by the old council?
I can't answer that.
Ken, you were involved. Was it spot zone by the old council? But did they change the zoning? Did the planning board or the zoning board have anything to do with changing the zoning over there? Or was it just the council made a decision?
The Viviano was a litigation, and it was a resolution of a litigation. It was a Mount Laurel litigation.
Currently?
No, then.
Okay, but...
It was a Mount Laurel suit then.
But the council had a...
It wasn't spot zoning when you...
Okay, well, like I said, I'm not an expert like you, but...
I'm just saying, it's not spot zoning.
Okay.
It was a Mount Laurel resolution, and it was a settlement that had to go through the courts. Judge Harris was the judge at the time, well-known judge, very tough on municipalities, by the way, and very... people would say very pro-developer.
Right.
But there was a settlement, and we also had Elliot Erdang involved, who was a well-known land use co-attorney. So spot zoning, it was not spot zoning.
Okay, I just seen that the council was able to change the, you know.
Well, the council approved the settlement.
So that automatically overrides zoning and planning then?
The settlement.
Right.
The court settlement and the court approval did, correct.
Okay. All right, thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Durso. Would anybody else like to come up and address the council?
Mike, before they come up, can I have one comment on Mike Ullman's discussion on the personnel closed matter? How many people were riced for that closed session?
One or two? One, Mr.
One?
Bruno, yes.
Hey, how is everybody? My name is Arun Scaria. I'm at 7 Katharina Place, Washington Township. I'm a relatively new resident. I moved in 2016. My comments are around the Viviano property. So I don't envy you guys. I think you guys have a very tough job. My only comment is, you know, after going through the various documents that Attorney Lamb has presented, as well as what the developer has presented, plus what's been available from the planning board. It's very complex. So my comments to this board is, as you guys are, following the attorney and reviewing all of the documentation, as Attorney Lamb had mentioned, I think one of the positives that came out of this was the number of residents that really got engaged at a civic level, right? This would be my first time engaging in a town hall, in a city, municipality level kind of engagement. So I think the number of folks that are engaging on this has been interesting. I think the other point that I'd like to make is, as you guys go through all of the facts and the attorney advises you, my comment is, if there is more information that's needed and the burden, I just ask my general comment is, should the burden of when there's gray areas be on the residents of the town or on the developer? So as you go through each of these issues and the complexity of these issues, that's the question that I hope you guys keep in your mind. And if there is that gray area, I would hope that you would side with the residents in terms of the need for the burden of proof of information should be on the developer. So that's all. That's my comments.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to come up and address the council at this time?
Good evening. Mary Gozell, 464 Van Emberg. At the last session, I believe it was Councilman Ullman that brought up 2 grants that were denied. One for $250,000 and the other one for $11,000. And he was asking for accountability. And I'm waiting to see if anybody is going to discuss that. But the issue that I have is, it was mentioned that the $11,000 bond that was denied, the money was already spent. So my question is, do you normally spend money, grant money, before you actually get it?
Mrs. Carn, do we have an update on the review you were doing on those?
Well, like I said, that happened in the past before my time, but that's exactly what happened. The money was spent and grants were never received.
So we spent the money and just never received the grants?
Yes.
Well, weren't you supposed to go and look to see what happened as far as why the grants were denied? You know, Mr. Ullman, didn't you ask for an accountability on that?
I did ask to understand, and not so much to, nail anyone in the past, but
happening in the future.
yes,
correct.
we have a number of grants on our tracker that, could fall into the same situation. So,
right.
If it's happened once, what's changed that's going to prevent it from happening again.
Well, in my watch it won't happen. I wasn't here in 2006.
No, I know that. It was just my understanding that you were going to look into it to see what happened and, why that occurred.
Well, as was discussed, when you don't get a grant, either the project wasn't followed through, okay, or the application wasn't done.
Right. And
there was 2006, there was nothing in the file.
Oh, okay, then that's the answer. You looked into it?
Yes, I did look into it. Yes, I did.
Okay, that's the answer then.
And I would just say that although I wouldn't expect it to happen on your watch, Ms. Curran, the fact that I'm sure your predecessor had the same intent, and it did happen. So again, if we can put together a procedure, I think we'd be all much better off understanding the steps, who has the accountability, who has the responsibility, who has oversight, and who has, to ensure that these things are seen through to completion. We have a development for ADA at the Memorial Field. We have another grant. I don't have it in front of me right here, but, just to understand that as things progress, as payments are made, that any paperwork that's required to be submitted to the grant issuer are submitted and we receive those funds.
Well, that does start with the engineer, and as the last meeting where I was speaking to John, his name is pronounced Yakimic. We had discussed the fact that when the project is going along, he and I will be in contact, and he has to contact with me to file the application.
Okay.
When something is paid, you get the purchase order done, you get a copy of it, get a copy of the invoice, you submit it, you get paid.
Well, it sounds very
That's how that
simple.
works.
I mean, it sounds very
It
simple.
sounds simple, well, some people just don't follow through, but I've
Exactly.
had trouble with that in the past.
Okay.
If I may comment on your question, I've poured over these numbers for years. I've gone through all the audits. I've gone through as much as I could. I sat with the auditors. The basic and bottom line to the situation is there were zero controls that this municipality had. And the money was spent however anybody wanted to spend it. They put these receivables on the books. They used current funds to pay for them. Projects were abandoned. And we ended up, the town residents suffered and ended up writing off hundreds of thousands of dollars of these receivables. And we taxed the taxpayers again and again and again. And all we did in certain areas, spend it, other areas we didn't. We built up $5 million of surplus money all over the books. It was horrendous. I mean, it just, to me, it's unconscionable, and that's what happened. Zero controls.
Exactly.
Mrs. Gazelle, we've written off almost $750,000. This council, even though we weren't responsible for it, has had to come up with, Bob, $758,000 to date approximately?
Well, I think though, Ms. Curran said the last amount, we were a little, that was covered, the 250,000, so
Yes.
probably 500 or so.
So we've had to find 500 for,
Part of it was already covered.
it's a lot of money. So,
Also, you have to realize too, is that when the project is started, who's saying to stop the project? Where, I mean, that's in the past, where was that coming from?
yep.
Well, the
Those things
project
have to be discussed.
initially has legs, so it wants to get done. A lot of times we have to match the grant before we even see a dime of the grant, and then for some reason, either the application doesn't get completed, so it never gets processed, we never get it back, or it falls off the radar somewhere, or the project never get started. And then you still have that money that's out there that we basically took from the residents for a
Right.
project we're never going to
But
do.
sometimes what happens is you have a project, and the phase will be where the engineer's involved, he's getting paid.
Right.
Do his legwork. But you don't follow through with the construction. A lot of times, the construction portion is the grant portion. So have you paid the engineer to do all the
Most of
legwork
the
and
most of the
design,
grants are like
and
that. Is
you're
that
not
correct, Ms.
following
Curran?
through?
Is that correct? Most of the grants are for construction,
Construction, yes.
not the
Not for
initial
design, yes.
engineer and design.
Right.
So,
Doesn't
you know,
include soft costs.
it's nice, I want to buy something, I go through all the process, but at the end, I don't pull the
Right, so you're
trigger and
paying
pay
out on
for
one
it.
end, but you're not really getting the whole complete project.
So you got all these nice, beautiful plans, but you have nothing to show for it. It's all on paper, which is, it's a shame for the taxpayer. You know, we're taxing our residents for something that they're never going to get.
Right.
And to me, that's double or triple taxation, and that should never happen again. And to Mr. Ullman's and Mr. Bruno's point, there has to be some SOP, some standard operating procedure, where it doesn't fall off the radar. Because I don't want to come up next year with another $500,000 we have to find. Because people are not going to be happy. People should be keeping their money, not tax dollars, their money, unless they're getting something for it. So I think as a council and as an administration, I think Mr. Tovo is going to put something in place with the CFO so that doesn't happen again. But thank you for looking into it, and thank you for your question.
Okay, thank you. Also, I have one more question.
We also, one other point, you talked about engineering fees. We had over $100,000 of engineering fees that remained unpaid from the year 2002, which I don't know if they've all been settled. I've asked Mr. Tovo for reconciliation. And a lot of these engineering fees were for projects, again, where we were expecting grants that never went through. But you're right, to Ms. Curran's point, we paid these fees and nothing happened. Actually, we didn't pay them. We got an invoice, now we paid them 10 years later.
But if it goes back that far, what happened? You know, it's not something that just happened last night or
Right, zero
last year.
controls.
Yeah.
Zero controls.
So we have controls now.
I don't know. I hope so. We've been asking, you know, we have a CFO full-time now. We never had. We pushed and pushed. We have somebody. Let's hope, you know, Ms. Curran gets on her feet. She's got a lot to do. She's got to catch up from what the past stuff is and start setting up new procedures.
Am I allowed to address the engineering
Yes.
issue? Am I? Okay.
Please.
I've been working diligently on those engineering bills. And, I mean, a lot of research. Some of them are escrow. We're writing to get some money. Some bills were not paid. Some of the projects go back from a long time. I have a spreadsheet analysis like this. I've been working on it for a long time. I think Joy's on vacation a couple days. When she comes back, she and I are going to get together and go back. Some of it involves soil movement. There were no follow-up letters done, so that's our game plan. So that's actually in the works.
Good, thank you.
And then I have just one more question. Mayor Calamari, back probably in January, you had indicated that you received speed signs that were going to be put up around town. I was wondering whether you were waiting for warmer weather or whether that was accomplished.
You mean permanent speed signs that would go up? Yes, I believe they're ordered and in, and we're just waiting for conducive weather, correct, Bob?
Correct.
Yes.
All right, because I live on that end.
Yes.
We still have a problem as far as the speed is concerned. My mailbox from the last snowstorm got knocked down, and it was because the plow came down too fast, you know, so knocked it down. Well, my husband was putting up the mailbox over the weekend, and I had to put a cone out because these people were going down the street and they had to be doing 40, 45. You know, I mean, I was concerned about him getting hit, just trying to put a mailbox up. Something has to be done, and we're not the ones that established the 25-mile-an-hour speed zone on that street. And also, you know, there's a school there. There's no school signage, you know, on the road or anything like that. So if something could be done extra, you know, I'd be happy to pay for it too.
We won't come to that.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Zell. Would anybody else like to come up and address the council at this time? Seeing no one else, do I have a motion to close the public discussion of the meeting?
So moved.
Second.
Councilman Bruno?
Yes.
Councilman Casio?
Yes.
Councilman Cummings?
Yes.
Councilman Oman?
Yes.
Council President DeSena?
Yes. Under ordinances, none. Individual resolutions, Resolution 19-145, authorized transfer of appropriations in the 2018 budget in the first 3 months of the year 2019. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yeah, this is, Ms. Curran, this is 20, what percentage did you use? 29%, 25%?
I'm sorry, what are you referring to?
We're doing
Transfer.
Resolution 19-145.
Oh, the transfer?
Yes.
Oh, Dina came to me, she's a new accounts payable person, she came to me to try to pay some bills from 2018, and there was not enough money in the gasoline line item.
Oh, so this is in addition to the, how much is it?
The bills amounted to...
15K.
15?
I'm putting 15 right now, she needs about 9,000, and I figured I'll put a little in there just in case there's any scragglers that, you know, come in late. Not, I could always transfer the excess back.
Okay. We'll leave it.
Anything else, gentlemen? Roll call.
Councilman Bruno?
Yes.
Councilman Casio?
Yes.
Councilman Cummings?
Yes.
Councilman Oman?
Yes.
Council President DeSena?
Yes. Under consent agenda, all the following items have been determined to have unanimous consent of council and will be enacted in one motion. Should any item require independent consideration, any council member may have such item removed from the consent agenda. Resolution 19-146, authorized resolution demanding Suez North America to aggressively replace lead service lines they own. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
So I have a question on this one. I guess everybody received a letter the other day,
Yes.
which is really, as we say, a cover yourself letter. So I agree with it, by all means, but should we have a Suez representative here also try to explain what's happening with this? I mean, I sent an email.
All they're going to do, Bob, when I spoke to, they're going to tell you to go on their website and punch in your house number.
Yeah, I did.
And that's all their explanation is at this time. And if you'd like more information, please pay the $50 fine to have it tested. That's there. And I believe everybody in Township received a letter from Suez in their mail this week. I got 2 of them, actually. I don't know why, but I got 2 of them this week. And that is the extent of their explanation at this time. But I think, you know, we need to demand that they don't wait 15 years to replace all these lead lines like they want to. And us asking them to do it in a 5-year period is a more acceptable time frame. So I hope you're on board with
I
my
agree.
request for
The
this.
$50 is their testing fee, is that what
That's the lab test company that they want you to pick up the cost if you want to know if you have a lead or not.
Okay.
But when we pass, we have a plan to say we're going to send letters?
It gets, if you read the resolution, it's getting sent to the DEP, the The Department of Environmental Protection, Commissioner Catherine McCabe, New Jersey Board of Public Utilities, New Jersey State Legislator, the Governor, and Suez North America. It's being sent to all those people.
So do we have any thoughts as to what that will do to our rates? Because I know when they raised the rates last year, I think it was, the council as a whole approved I guess a letter saying that they shouldn't raise the rates. These things don't happen for free. Was the 15 years based on their ability to do it without additional fees to?
No, it's to do it within so they can keep that profit margin. And that's what I have an issue with. And unfortunately, the urban cities that have the most lead pipes are the ones that are suffering the most. I'd say the majority of township residents don't have lead lines, maybe some do, but being that most of the township was developed in the 50s and 60s, it's the urban cities that are getting the short end of the stick, Mike.
When were lead lines
somewhere in the 80s.
Somewhere in the 80s, okay. So basically, most of Washington Township has lead lines.
No, they don't.
Oh, they don't?
No.
We don't. We have copper lines.
We have copper most of the places, I've been told.
Except if there's any older housing.
Correct.
Okay.
I think on Beach Street.
There you go.
Depression
Roll call.
or pre-depression after the First World War and up to before the Second World War, lead was used.
Correct. We're an after World War period, so.
So we're not likely to have it. But
Councilman Bruno?
Yes.
Councilman Casio?
Yes.
Councilman Cumming?
yes.
Councilman Ullman?
Yes.
Council President DeSena?
Yes. Do I have a motion to adjourn to the conference agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Councilman Bruno?
Yes.
Councilman Casio?
Yes.
Councilman Cumming?
Yes.
Councilman Ullman?
Yes.
Council President DeSena?
Yes. Just a quick reminder, medicine drop-off at the police department. The Township of Washington Police Department has been designated as a permanent site for the collection of unused, expired, and unwanted prescription medications. For safety reasons, only solid medications such as pills, patches, and inhalers are accepted. Liquids or syringes are not accepted. If you wish to dispose of liquid or syringes, please contact your doctor or pharmacist to find how to dispose of those items correctly. The Township of Washington Police Department is proud to be working in conjunction with the Drug Enforcement Administration and the New Jersey Department of Consumer Affairs. We are one of only 30 permanent sites in all of New Jersey. The drop box is located in the Township of Washington Police Department lobby at 350 Hudson Avenue. Pet licensing, the $5 late fee is now in effect. The clerk office has registered 659 dogs and 48 cats. A meetup spot for your safety located in the parking lot of Town Hall by the DMF gates is an internet purchase exchange locations with live video recording. The next regularly scheduled meeting of the Township Council will be Monday, March 4th, beginning at 7:30. And let's go to the conference agenda.
You want to take 5? You want to take 5 minutes?
You want 5?
Yeah, let's take 5.
We take a 5-minute break, gentlemen, before we go into conference agenda. You back on?
Ladies and gentlemen.
Ladies and gentlemen. 2019 budget, we had asked if everybody was available Saturday morning to meet at 9 o'clock. Mr. Bruno, you aren't here. You okay with that?
Yep.
This Saturday.
This Saturday, yep.
Okay, yep.
I will advertise for you.
Sue will advertise the meeting.
And what, Mr. Council President, how long do you anticipate how many meetings are we anticipating?
Not many, because hopefully everybody's been getting their questions into Mrs. Curran beforehand and Mr. Tovo. I know Mr. Tovo gave us a quick synopsis of the budget overview tonight. Was on the dais, showing the reasons for the increases. Thank you, Mr. Tovo. So if there's anything else, gentlemen, we need to get those questions in so we can have answers before the meeting and we don't have to extend the meetings any longer. If the meeting.
So can I ask questions, or should I email?
Well, email before Saturday, so this way Judy can have the answers and Mr. Tovo can have the answers.
Okay.
I mean, if you want to ask a few questions.
If you want to ask a
Well,
couple
I
questions.
mean, I just want to make some comments. The capital is a separate issue, because that has to have a debt schedule with it, because there's a lot going on, so I assume we're not going to really get into capital unless we have a debt schedule.
Right.
And a payment schedule, and a band schedule, and et cetera, et cetera. Also, our former administrator, I will say, with the budget, when we went through a lot of these items, they were specific to premiums, i.e. health insurance, and I took a quick glance and I saw our health insurance premium was going up, which I know it's not that high. So, Mr. Tovo, I don't know if you have all the detail invoices and premiums that we need, because usually we would have the amounts, and it was on an invoice or a premium, rather than us guessing. So I just want to have all that prepared for us also.
Yeah, the number is based on the invoices we received, so I can provide them to you.
Yeah, that's critical, because otherwise we're guessing, and I don't want to guess an estimate.
Understood. Fair enough.
So
Mr. Tovo, so your number in the budget currently is the invoices?
Correct.
It's high, though. Well, we
It
can
is.
get into it. It's extremely high. So, okay, as
Okay, well, I
long as,
just wanna-
there's backup is what I'm trying to say, that supports the number. And I assume that all the conversations were had with all the department heads, Mayor?
That's,
Yeah, okay.
Yes, that's correct.
I do believe there was an increase in premiums for 19. Am I right about that?
It was big.
There was
So
an
as long
increase.
as we have the detail and the premiums and the insurance premiums, we're okay. We need all the detail we can, because it makes it go easy.
Do we anticipate having any of the department heads or directors at these meetings?
we do, yes.
Okay.
I mean, the same as last year, but if there's any other department you want in?
No, I didn't, I guess, given the revised approach of getting the questions in early, I didn't know if, this was a formality of meeting and they weren't going to be there and have
No,
a chance to express their wants and needs to the council for our
No,
consideration.
they'll be given that opportunity to have a dialogue with the council.
Okay, perfect.
Yep.
Just trying to get the questions, get the questions answered so we don't sit around, Mike, that's all.
So are these department heads going to be at the first budget meeting, all of them, or?
I think we should have a select few there
Yeah, I
and
think-
schedule the rest accordingly.
Okay.
I
So,
need to know.
so I guess if there's people that, I'm sorry, Sid.
I just need to know ASAP so I can get a notice out, and if there's anybody's notices that need to be done.
Are you going to follow the same format?
The same format as
Just
last. just
page
with
one right to the
Yeah,
end?
we're going to go page one to the end, right?
So
Bob?
I guess you'd have to see, I don't know which departments.
Yeah, I think
pop
for
up
the first meeting, I don't think last
Yeah.
year we had any departments because we're going through the original. So for this meeting, we won't have any departments, but we're just trying to get the questions answered. Like Bob had the question about health insurance. So instead of having to go past health insurance, Mr. Tovo will have that information at the meeting and we'll be able to answer the question, right? I mean, that's all we're trying to avoid.
Yep.
Anything else on the budget, gentlemen?
Just regarding salaries, historically, we've done for lack of a better term, a cost of living of 1.5%, as far as I can remember. Some of the lines that I've reviewed are clearly more than that. Are we changing our approach to compensation? And if we are, what is that?
The lion's share of the raises are based on 1.5%. There are some merit pay increases we're recommending that we will discuss when we do the line item.
Okay, and when you say merit, just so I'm clear, is that due to, would you categorize it as superior performance or market adjustment, or both?
We're basing it on performance.
Performance, okay.
So we have written evaluations?
Now, last year, no.
So then how, okay, we can talk about it. I don't want to
Okay.
get into it now. This is something we've talked about for years, to have written evaluations for performance increases. So to have a merit increase for somebody, when somebody's getting 1.5 and someone gets a 3, I don't even know what's the basis and why. And I think without a performance evaluation, we're just wasting time.
Well, going into the future, is one of the things we need to reevaluate and update is the criteria used for the evaluations. But we can only do that in conjunction with correct and up-to-date policies and procedures.
I mean, I think Mike started on this.
We've been pushing for merit for the longest time, and I think, you know, prior councils have looked for it since my tenure here, and the problem was is we had nothing to rank the merit increase on. So, if I'm understanding you correctly, we still have nothing to rank the merit increase on, and we're working on that procedure at this time?
Correct.
Okay, I guess my question is, you said it's a mixture. So how did you come up with the merit increase at this juncture? I guess that's my question.
The mayor and I met between ourselves and the department members and evaluated the performance, my term to date, on some key employees, and felt that they deserved a higher increase because of the performance and the way they stepped up and assisted every department over the course of the last year. To your point, though, if you'd rather hold off on merit raises until we have a strong policy in place, I don't have an objection to that.
Okay, I mean, I just don't want it to be arbitrary. I mean, I understand that you have a feel for their performance, and I appreciate that. But I think, you know, you really want to have some type of rubric to go off of what constitutes a merit raise. And I'm all for merit raises. I'm all for merit. If you don't perform, I don't think you get the 1.5% either. But, you know, we can talk about that at budget.
Yeah, I think maybe for those few people, we want to maybe rice notice them so we can talk about their performance at budget time.
I think that would be an appropriate thing. So if you have those people...
Mr. Mayor, can you prepare, Mr. Mayor and Mr. Tobin, can you prepare a letter who we should rice with,
yes,
for the people that are affected by this? Because we can't discuss it without ricing them.
Yeah, so that would be a good idea.
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you.
If you could prepare a list and get it to Sue so she can rice that.
Perhaps that could be meeting 2.
Yeah,
that should be meeting 2.
Yeah, let's progress. Yes,
of course.
No use.
Thank you, Mike. Mr. Tovo, the project tracker.
I'll focus on the changes since the last tracker was issued at the end of January. Number 1 under capital projects, the intersection. The mayor and myself met with Boswell on February 7th to review plans and discuss the next steps, which would include the repositioning of utilities and the duration of the project. It's anticipated that once construction begins, the project will last about a year. We met again with Boswell today with an update. They are working closely with the county, so we are beginning to see progress on this.
Where does the ball reside at the moment? Is the county still giving us feedback, or do we owe information to the county?
We don't owe them information, but right now it's kind of a dual track. We have some responsibilities, as do they, and we're nearing completion of ours, so we'll meet with them and review next steps.
Thank you.
88 curb cuts on county roads. Mr. Azzolino met again with the county on 125. The final design for the curb cuts should be done by the end of this month. Solar powered pedestrian signs were delivered on 2/12/19, and installation is being scheduled.
Can I just ask a question on signs for a minute? Have we ordered all the street signs and stop signs we wanted to get, pedestrian crossing signs, watch out for children signs, etc.?
When you say all, I can't say all that we want, but all that was budgeted for has been ordered.
Okay, and did we roll any of these signs into the road program?
Yeah, this does not include the signs that are associated with road resurfacing.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Bob, which would include, Mr. Tovo, the stop signs? Is that what we're talking?
If we're redoing a road, all the signage on that road should be done as part of the project.
Okay, but not exclusively stop signs, all signs?
All signs.
Okay, thank you.
Radio system upgrade and analysis. Currently, the police and fire departments are testing the state radio system. We should have results by mid-March.
Bob, I go back, I'm sorry, the road program. So I don't know if we're clear as to exactly what we we know we put in for an ordinance to bond. I'm not sure at the end of the day what we spent. I know we rolled over money. I had asked this a couple of months ago. We had rolled over money from last year, I think, into this year. And this year, we didn't spend what we expected. So what do we technically have that's bonded, that hasn't been used, that can be rolled over for 2019?
I don't believe any of it has been bonded as of yet. So right now, we're still operating on bands. But there's still pieces of projects that were not done from 18 that cannot be done until the weather breaks this year. And part of that, I think, was Woodfield Road on some curbing, and I think a guardrail that needs to go in. So the final numbers really aren't complete yet. Once that piece of the project is done, then we'll have a full accounting for what was spent, what's left, and what can roll.
So we'll know, you'll know how much money we have still in the pot somewhere, whether it's banned or bonded, whatever we did?
Correct.
When? Before we
I
start?
expect we'll know that mid-March, the latest.
Okay, thanks.
Well, right now, we have one less payment this year on the bonds, the outstanding bonds. That's why the budget is, in terms of the debt schedules, we just have what's actually due this year.
That's the 400,000, right?
Right, unless we're going, what we're going to do going forward, we're going to ban a bond. I've been talking to bond counsel and to Mr. Tobo, talking some strategies. That's why right now the budget only actually has on the last serial bond payment and the interest that's due.
Okay, I just want to make sure that we approved money for roads, and I know we didn't spend it all. Just what's in this pot that we can still use, so that when we bond for 19, we don't have to bond as much, or we add it to what we bond and do more and finish the streets.
Well, normally what happens is when you have bands and you're going to renew the bands, if you want to go out and you borrow more, then you increase the amount of the bands, as long as there's some availability on the ordinance to borrow against. And how it works is normally when you spend it, you can borrow against that ordinance.
Okay. I just basically, what's the surplus we have left that we haven't spent? That's all I want to know.
Mr. Tovo, can Mr. Azzolino give us a rough idea?
Yeah, somebody
of
should.
an approximation of what the work is left? I mean, if we have $25,000 worth of guide rail and we put 21,000 in?
Well, as our last conversation, he had,
Yeah, I mean, that's a
he did have a rough estimate.
Yes,
but
I mean,
I wanted a firm number.
I mean, we're $210,000 off of what we budgeted and what we spent. So unless you come back, so we could have paved $210,000 more worth of streets, which we didn't. So I think that goes to Bob's question. So if we have $30,000 left of work on Woodfield Road, do we go into 2019 with $180,000 of extra money that we don't have to budget because we have it left over from 18?
I agree.
So I mean, if he's got 25,000 left of curb and guardrail, well, let's be very conservative about it and call it 30. And if we spend 26, we have 4 left over to spend on 2019. But I don't think we have to wait till March or April to get that number. I mean, it's X amount of length times the unit price. I mean, so.
So I'll get his number, make the adjustment, and email the balance to you.
Okay, thank you.
May I just, since we're jumping back and forth, part of the intersection obviously is Washington Ave. Last year, there was discussion, and I think there's a dependency on the curb cuts, but does the county plan to do Washington this year?
They do plan on doing it. We don't know where in the queue it is as of now.
Okay, so it's still on their radar?
Correct.
Oh,
Washington and Ridgewood is still on the radar, right?
Correct.
They're going to do both, Mike.
Washington being the
and
higher
Ridgewood.
priority.
Yes.
Van Emberg, because I live on it, I have a very good idea of how bad it is, so perhaps we could put that in the queue as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Although someone else would have to drive it to have their teeth rattled.
I drove it today, I agree.
4 nights a week, both ways.
Then they'll end up doing 50 miles an hour.
Mr. Tovo, if you just finish up the project tracker, please. Yeah.
Under basketball courts and ADA, both projects will be done. ADA early spring, basketball courts late spring, early summer.
Is that all basketball courts or just the one at Memorial
This is
or Gardner?
both Memorial.
Gardner and Memorial,
Yes, correct.
And then the last thing I have is on the grant writer, our RFQs are due for final submission this Thursday by noon.
I just had one question on that, and it ties into the budget, and perhaps I missed it deeper in the budget, but the first portion for administration, there is no funding for the grant writer?
Correct.
How do we plan on paying for them?
Well, you see, by the timing of the deadline here, the intent was to insert a number there, depending on what the responses are.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other happening projects that are not on the list that we should know about?
The only thing not on the list would be the demolition of the Red House. And we are moving along with that. The power meter's been removed. The line should be removed sometime this week, followed by the gas shutoff. We already have proposals for the tear down and removal. We'll evaluate that this week and award by week's end or beginning of next week.
Water shut off already, or?
No, water is still in the queue to be shut off.
Okay. And just out of curiosity, only because I would think that any update or redevelopment would be tied into the firehouse, which may or may not happen next year. What are the plans, or what will the end state look like, or the intermediate state? Is it going to be a hole in the ground? Are they leveling it? Are they putting sod down? Is it going to be a pocket park?
Dwellings will be removed, the asphalt will be removed, the ground will be leveled, and if we choose to plant, we can plant.
Okay, thanks.
Do we have any projects thinking about the Helen Bond property?
It's in front of the zoning board now, Mr. Bruno. There's an application in front of the
Did they sell it?
Yeah, it's sold.
Oh, good.
It's under contract. There's a contract purchaser.
And the only other thing I can think to add is on the renovations to the firehouse. Both agencies are still working with the architect to, finalize plans and like that.
Thank you. Green Team Advisory Committee.
Would you please explain some of your concerns, your feelings, your advice?
Well, I know the Green Team is making a request that they be better organized and I guess recognized as an entity. You were going to get, I think, back to them in terms of what they were going to be in line for. But the long and the short of it is, I mean, you can constitute a more formalistic approach to the Green Team. You could make it under one of the departments. I would think that's really what you would do. You would put it under a department and set forth who would be on the Green Team, et cetera, and how they would be appointed and what terms would be and things of that nature.
Would you be able to get us some sample ordinance,
I'd have to draft, I would draft something up.
I think the state, I think the Green Team has a sample ordinance.
I know they have committees. I think we would do it where it would be a board, probably. Might call it a committee, but it still would be under one of the departments. I could put something together.
What do they do?
What do they do?
They do, everything with making sure that, they have waterway cleanups, making sure that the environment is just well taken care of. They have, they got someone in from the state, I believe, to do a tree survey as to trees that should come down, which is why you'll see a big increase in the budget for tree removal this year. So just, making sure that the town is operating in an environmentally friendly way.
Do they do aesthetics too, or they don't do the aesthetics?
Typically not aesthetics, no.
What's the benefit of adding a layer of bureaucracy? Would they operate, I guess, if they organize and become a committee or a department or a, whatever we want to call it.
Other department, yeah. Right.
To me, that just creates a level of bureaucracy. So,
my understanding from the senior members of the team is they can't apply for certain grants unless they are officially recognized by the town. So they're losing out on potential grant money to fund their activities and that.
And that recognition comes in the form of some type of incorporation within our
Correct.
organization?
Correct.
Okay.
We're sanctioning the activities that we're already partaking in hopes that when officially recognized as an arm of the town government and something that's sanctioned by the town, that we can apply for certain grants, which we cannot now apply for. We had a garden last year, which we grew many vegetables, which were distributed for free to the senior citizens, and I helped perform some of these functions. They did cleanup in Lincoln Park and brought 900 pounds of trash out of there.
Believe me, I know.
900 pounds. And Tom Sears and the Girl Scouts and other participants and adults helped clean that up, and we had Brian McDonald from the Forestry Division come up from his office in Trenton and visit with us for the day, and we have certificates of attending conferences for this, and careful when you dig for public service and such things. And Mr. McDonald showed us how we can identify the trees which are hazardous and they're on town property, and that's why there's a bigger number in the budget, as the mayor said, to take care of these problems. We're identifying a lot of the dangerous trees, such as the ones in Woodland behind the library. One of them fell on the library this year, and that could have been prevented if the Green Team had started earlier and sooner, but we are doing it.
So, to your point, Art, I think actually it could have been prevented if it was done 2 years ago when we tried to get money in the budget, which it never was. But that's a different story. But these people will be volunteers, non-pay?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, we are.
Okay.
Here's my take on the Green Team. You know, we only can have so many departments in our charter, which is 10. The Green Team would probably align best under the other advisory board, which is the Health Department, since it's pretty similar, because you're dealing with environmental health and well-being. So my suggestion is to add it into the charter under the Department of Health, with the Health Director being the head, and then just mirror the actual portion of the charter that deals with the advisory health department. That's really the easiest way to get it in. You're not adding another department. You still have only one director, but he can direct both advisory committees. I mean, don't reinvent the wheel. It's already in there. You just substitute Health Advisory Board with Green Team Advisory Committee or Board. I think that's the easiest way, because we are losing out on grant dollars from the state because it's not part of our organization. And keep it simple. You have to roll the terms of the members, just like you do in any committee that you start. You know, maybe a 1-, 2-, and 3-year term, concurrent and with the turnover, and that would probably be the easiest and best way to do it. But again, I think that should be under the Health Department, under their purview. And again, the Health Department and other departments such as the Planning Board and the Zoning Board, it's all volunteer. You really don't have a secretary. I don't think they need a secretary to keep minutes for them, so it wouldn't really cost us too much overall. But we could bring some funds and necessary services into the township through the state and county governments.
Thank you. Anything else on the Green Team, gentlemen? So, Mr. Pollard.
F in there, okay? And F would read, all other outside users with members other than from the Township of Washington or Westwood residents. Because we do share some teams with Westwood, that's why we put that in there, right, Art?
Right.
So if there are organizations with members from Hillsdale, Paramus, they would be classified under as a Class 5 user. So that's all the changes on that page. If we go to the last page, which is basically the use fee chart, okay? We really only changed Class 2A and 2B, and we have all these charges. If we go down Class 2A, for the softball fields, everything was 50, 40, 100, 50, 100, 150. We're going to make that whole column no charge because that's our own residence. And we felt we shouldn't recharge our residents to use our facilities. That's, again, in mine and Art's opinion, double taxation for our own children, and we didn't want to do that. We're paying enough money to let our kids play on the field. And we did the same thing for Class B as well. All those are going to be no charge going down.
2B.
I'm sorry, 2B, thank you, 2B going down. Those are all going to be no charge.
Yes, sir.
At this point. And then we looked at surrounding towns such as Westwood, Hillsdale.
Could I just, I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
So we've done away with Class 2A.
Right.
And there is no Class 2B.
Right, we have to clean it up because we got rid of B basically, okay?
Well,
So
2A and 2B became one, Mike.
They became one, so it's really Class 2. So we can just call it Class 2. I just didn't get around to cleaning it up. I'm sorry, go ahead, Mike.
So Class 1 is no charge.
No charge.
And Class 2, which is now basically anything that's not township-related, but is a charitable organization incorporated with a business
503(c).
corporation in the township, is a Class 2, and Class 2 won't be charged. Is that the...
2A.
2B also, you said?
2B as well. All three classes, Class
2A
1,
and
2,
2B.
and 3.
1, 2A, and 2B, no charge.
So Class 1 and 2 basically will not be charged.
Maybe I'm an idiot, and I've been called that, but I'm looking here, Class 2, we just moved A up here. So now we have Class 1, A and B. There is no Class 2,
There's no
A or B.
Right, correct.
So, I mean,
A, B, and C, or 1 and 2 are going to basically be the same.
who's on first?
I don't know. What's on second?
No,
Yeah, it gets confusing.
No charge.
So,
You want to just get 3, we can have 3 classes and just make Class 1 big? We can do that too.
2 doesn't look like it exists anymore, right? 2 doesn't.
It's basically wiped out.
Yeah, so
So you can
why-
make it 1 big class if you wanted to. I
well,
just
it's
tried
just
to
part of
keep,
Class 1, that's all.
we can incorporate it. I don't mind. Having 3 classes is a lot better than having 5 because it
Would
gets...
you be able to revise this and
Sure.
present it?
Yeah, sure.
revised?
Yeah, I
No
think
problem.
that would be a good idea.
Changes?
No
Yeah.
problem.
Is everybody amenable to the tack that Mr. Cumming and Dr. Cascio have taken so
Yes.
far, so they can revise this? And
Well, let me just finish before we move on.
We should clean it up and
If we go over,
consolidate it.
if we go over to the last class, which is 5, but we can actually be 3, if we combine 1 and 2, okay?
Could be 4.
Okay? We looked around the surrounding towns, and their fees are considerably higher than ours. So in order to bring it into line, we increased those fees. And let me just go over those real quick. We went from, if you go down the line, there was a charge of $115. We made that $200 for the softball and little league size fields at Clark, Gardner, and Cherry.
So, I'm sorry, Steve, it's 75 to 115 to 200?
Yeah, we're going up to 200.
So the 115's out?
115's out. Next one, we went to 200. For multi-purpose fields, which is Memorial, we went to 300. Okay? Then for Memorial Field Pavilion, we went to 150. For up to 50 people, between 50 and 100, we went to 200. That's a $10 increase. We're really horrible people here. We're all about the money. Then for over 100 people, it was 265. We went to 3, and the rest we left alone.
Do we have any actuals of what we actually received in revenues and rented on these fields?
I didn't have that information, and I didn't ask for that information, but I can ask for it if you want.
Yeah, might as well see.
Okay.
What was it?
And then the last thing, if you look down at 5, for DMF employees. Those are obviously old costs, and we wanted to find out what the current rate was for Monday through Saturday and the holiday and Sunday rates of our DMF, and probably increase that, and I'll wait until we get that information. So to your point, Mike, we will clean up the classes for you, so we'll be down to 3 classes instead of 5.
And you'll need, Sue, Dr. Cassio will need to sign this because I am vice president of baseball, so I cannot
Okay.
sign on it.
But that's really what we kind of discussed. And, you know, again, that was our discussion, and we're open to any other input to it. If you see something that we overlooked or you'd like to add or exclude, Mr. Ullman, Mr. Bruno, Mr. DeSena, please discuss with Art and myself, and we'll see if we can clean this up a little bit and make it easy to understand. It is very confusing with the different classes and the 2 different classes in Class 2, the A
I will
and B.
put it on
So
the record, I will continue to recuse myself in this before somebody says that.
okay.
So
We'll leave you to decide.
Who, so I like look at, when we pulled in tonight, the gentlemen and ladies, I don't know if there are ladies in there, the I think it's a ham radio club?
Yes.
So what class are they?
What class are they? I couldn't tell you off the top of my head because I don't know where they fit. Is it all people in Washington Township? Is it people outside of Washington Township? How would you classify them? You have to kind of break it down and find out where they are. And that's someone in the Recreation Department would have to, you know, come up with, hey, where do you fall in that classification?
I mean, and the thing...
I mean, we can't go out and list every organization in here.
No, I understand, but I guess the thing is that the softball fields, when I look at this, the softball fields, the Memorial Field are facilities that have true wear as they're used. So if you're playing, you know, if you're an outside party and you're playing on Memorial Field, you tear the field up, you tear up the softball fields, and we're charging them, you know, these rates.
Right.
The senior center or the community room, whatever's in there, I mean, they're tables and chairs. And we're charging them more to use that facility in a lot of instances than we are for a field that truly gets worn and has true use and expense associated with it.
Well,
that's sort of passive. I mean, whether the lights are on or off, I mean, with the new LED lights, it probably is 3 cents to keep the lights on for an hour.
Well,
so
Mike, I understand that, but if we looked at Westwood boroughs and the way they have it broken down, there is different use times with the ball fields. Like if you use the ball field for just 2 hours, it's a certain rate. If you use it over that, it's even more. Okay, so to your point, yes, the senior center is going to be there and you can use it hour after hour and you're not wearing down the beautiful tile floor.
No.
But if you go and use the baseball field, you're going to rip it up and it's going to need more maintenance.
Well,
and that's why
So should these fees be inverted? I mean, listen, I don't want to, if it's a for-profit entity, certainly they should pay their toll. If they're residents of the township, you know, I think directionally this is fine. I have no problem with what you're saying. My only thing is, should we be charging more on the softball fields or the green fields, those that truly have wear, and those that don't, you know, I mean, I don't know if they're paying $75 to sit in there and talk about their radios, but to me, you know, it seems a little
I can
excessive.
understand that.
So I would just say,
understand
should we reconsider that?
That's, again, if that's something you want to add to it, we'd be more than happy to take a look at it. This is just a starting point.
Okay.
And your point is well taken. Like you said, how much wear and tear can you do to some people sitting on some chairs as opposed to someone with cleats going up and down Memorial Field or Gardner Field?
Yes.
And, you know, obviously that takes a lot more maintenance, which takes a lot more funds to keep it looking pristine. if we can ever get those fields pristine, which we're
So
looking to
maybe
do.
you can clean it all up for us and we can read it again?
We'll clean it up for you. You know, this is just a starting point, but if you would please, you can maybe email some things that you might want to see on there.
Okay.
That would be greatly appreciated, and we can discuss it next meeting, and hopefully, because I know, Sue, you're starting to get people come in, right? To want to book the fields. I'd like to get it enacted as soon as possible, and I don't know, Ken, if we need to speed it up, would that be an emergent ordinance if we needed to, or not really?
Again, emergent for purposes of effectiveness is when you vote, when 4 people say they want it effective immediately, it's effective immediately. There's no test of emergency that you have to have.
Okay, so again, we'd like to get that before, you know, it gets too late in the spring season.
Are you looking at rec fees also?
We haven't discussed rec fees. This was just facility fees at this point. But if you want to revisit the rec fees, we can put that on the next tracker, and
Bob,
I think...
Dr. Casio, excuse me, Mr. Tovo, we now have a full-time rec director, part-time, full-time rec director, right?
Correct.
So he's going to give us an analysis of money collected, like Mr. Bruno has been asking for years, versus money expended per program?
Once we're done with this budget, a full analysis of recreation is going to be done by Ms. Curran and I.
With Mr. Sedekase?
Along with Joe, yeah.
Okay, and then we can...
Bob, does that answer your question?
Yeah, I think somebody sent something.
Yes.
I'm not sure.
He sent the fee schedule.
But somebody
He sent the
did
fee schedule, but we didn't have money expended versus money collected. I think that's what we were looking for.
I think they had everything, but
Oh,
I
it
don't
did
know,
have it in
I don't know
it?
if it's current.
It did have that all.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it was
It
current
was
or not.
fully loaded, and, you know, the overhead was spread out over the...
Over the different activities?
Yes.
Okay, so that's something, you know, we can look at once we get more information.
Okay.
Okay? Thank you for your time.
Mrs. Wojcicki has a question.
Question. Along with the other documents that were in your packet, there was a memo from JIF making the recommendation of all places, all organizations having a hold harmless form and a certificate of insurance. You know, if that's an agreement that should be included in the ordinance as well.
Yeah, and I'm going to give this to, I'm going to email a copy of this to you. All the other towns have a hold harmless on all their applications. We don't have one. Ours is very, first of it's archaic and it's elementary in its components, where these are much more in-depth and in detail, and I think maybe we can take some of these things from the other towns and use it. Ours is very, very, let me see if I have a copy. Do you have a copy of that, Art? Did I give you a copy of one of those?
Yes.
Okay, here's one for...
I would say one thing too, and that is that it should have 2 things. It should have a certificate of insurance and an indemnity, both.
Okay.
And I've always asked for that whenever anybody calls me. Sue knows I'll always ask for that. But I think that's something that should always be in effect.
So you
you
should put the insurance amount in
This
there too.
is what we're using now, right?
Yeah, this is a very, very elementary one, as you can see.
I'll show you this.
There's not a lot. You see, Westwood and Hillsdale, they have a lot of fine print at the bottom.
It's in the...
So
It's in the packet, right?
apparently, the fine print is all legalese, and Mr. Pollard can probably advise us what we need to put on our permit applications.
Yeah, ours is rather sophomoric.
Yeah, sophomoric.
That's a very...
Also, one more question.
I don't have much to say, but once in a while.
Is it per use or for an annual fee?
It's per use.
It says on
Per
there per
use.
use.
Yeah.
It does now.
That's for the year.
Yeah, well, another thing I left out on, which I didn't mention, but it was there on our thing. Remember how we put the DR on there?
Yes.
That was for a daily rate. It's a daily rate.
To make it more clear.
To make it clear, because that was an issue we had.
Because there was some misunderstanding.
Everything.
It's going to be
Everything.
labeled specifically.
Daily rate.
Thank you.
Everything's a daily rate.
So that there's no
which I overlooked.
confusion.
Yeah, on the fields, it currently says based on a 3-hour block. The others, I think you should put a limit in, like for 6 hours, otherwise someone will claim I have it from midnight till midnight, a whole day.
Well,
Okay.
I think on the
Good idea.
application, it says how long it is. Like Westwood's has theirs at 2-hour blocks.
Okay.
And then if there's an excess of 2 hours, they bump it up. Looks like they bump it up about $25 per hour.
So you'll clean this up for us, Steve?
We'll clean it up. Again,
Yep.
it's just the initial phases.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Yepper.
We have a draft ordinance in front of us for the Airbnb short-term rental property prohibitions that Mr. Pollard has prepared. Anybody have any questions on the ordinance that Mr. Pollard has prepared? Or comment?
No, sir.
Who's the enforcement agent?
I think we said it's in there.
It's going to be the code enforcement guy, yeah?
Police department, code enforcement official, and the health officer.
Enforcement is violation of any provisions of this article shall be cause for a municipal court summons to be issued by the police department, code enforcement official, or health officer. Mr. Ullman, it's on page 3 at the bottom.
580-90.
580-90, yes. And then it goes into the violations on the next page.
So the health officer, who we outsource, they can issue,
Well, it just gives the authority. You don't have to outsource it. It's just that it's the authority to issue it.
but our health officer is outsourced, isn't it?
Yes, yeah, that's Northwest.
So do they have the ability to write a summons?
We're giving them the ability to write the summons, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
They're one of the enforcing people under the ordinance. Not the only one, but one of.
So it's 175 days, Ken, or 30 days? Or
Well, this
just
one says
you can't do it?
this one says 175, so. Is that?
That's right.
Is that standard, Ken? for
No, that's
these?
the statute you're referring to. 175 days, you're referring to the statute, the opening paragraph?
Yeah.
That's just quoting from the statute.
Oh, okay.
That's just, it says that you have authority to regulate this stuff. That's just quoting from the statute.
So we're saying,
We're not talking about 175, we're talking about the activity itself.
the days or no days, just the rentals? It's just the activity of renting?
Right.
Okay.
Now, that doesn't prohibit, say, a year's lease type thing, if somebody's renting their condo unit or something for a year, that's not gonna cover that.
6 months?
Anything, it's the 175 days.
Gotcha.
So
So
Yeah,
covered. That's 180 days.
So-
Okay.
So in the opening paragraph, it's 175.
Right.
Next paragraph.
Yeah.
And in the next paragraph, it talks about 30 days.
Just a proliferation of these things.
So that's just a description of what's happening.
Right, this is just a whereas, this is all the justifications for doing this. This was coming from all those other towns.
All the other towns,
All the other towns had this.
So we have a bunch of whereas.
So basically, we're saying you cannot rent your facility for less than 30 days. Is that correct? In this-
175.
No,
That's the statute.
that's NJSA 4052-1, right? But we're talking, if we're going to adopt this, you can rent your house for more than 30 days, but not less than 30 days. Is that correct, Mr. Powell?
Let's see here, rental,
Yes.
If you rent it for
30
less
days
than
or
30
less.
days, you're in violation of our code.
30 days.
Okay.
That's the vacation definition.
That's the vacation coverage.
That's the vacation coverage.
So you couldn't go on Airbnb and rent it for a day or two for a weekend. That's what we're trying to do.
Right. It's got to be 30 days or longer. Consecutive 30 days.
So
Anything else?
does it have to be on a host, does it have to be
Advertised? No.
on a hosting platform?
No, because it said no person can accept payment for it. It says A 580-88, no person, including any hosting platform operator, shall undertake, maintain, authorize, and facilitate or advertise an education. And then B, no person shall charge, demand, receive, or accept the rent.
Okay.
These are interesting ordinances. I'm wondering when the enforcement of these things are going to actually get to court, reported decisions type things. But
Has any,
I haven't seen any. I haven't seen
you haven't seen any go through the court system yet?
Not the reported decisions yet, so.
Okay. But there are some
But
in the works?
But there are, I have no idea what's in the courts in terms of,
Okay.
yeah, what there is. But there seems to be a plethora of towns taking, obviously this form came from somewhere, the league or somewhere, and everybody just
Jumping on it?
jumping on it to put it out there, yeah. I'm assuming.
Well, the League of Municipalities,
Yeah.
you know, recommended
Yeah.
that we have something like
Yeah,
this.
and I think what's gonna happen over the years is as things are worked out and there are changes and some challenges, it'll probably get fine-tuned.
Okay.
This is kind of to get something together.
Just in the enforcement, 58090C, do we have a process to do this? Because we're going to be, one, do we have a process to quantify the full investigative costs?
Well, here's the thing, Mike, this is brand new, so we have nothing in effect to do it. It would have to be undertaken in the enforcement, in the implementation of this. So when the first case comes up that involves that, we're gonna have to figure out how to do that. I mean, it's not like,
I
I
understand, I guess, so writing a ticket, I'm sure the police and the code enforcement and even the health officer know how to write a ticket. And they
Right.
put the right code in and they send it to the courts. But we're saying that, one, we're going to be reimbursed for the investigative costs, and two, we're going to secure the rental revenue from the person who accepted it and return it to the victim who
Right.
rented it.
Right, so, I mean, it sounds very interesting. I'm thinking in my own mind, this is brand new.
Is he a victim?
Is the municipal court might have the authority to do that. I know criminal courts do have restitution powers. They can require restitution and they can assess monies. So what I'm saying is this is what was in the ordinances, and it's just another layer of looking to assess damages, so to speak.
So, I support this ordinance. My only concern is that we're going to start enforcing it, and then we're going to have issues about how are we going to enforce it, or how are we going to enforce this particular aspect, and how we're going to account for the monies, and who's going to do it. So if we're, if we think it's powers that the courts have and they've done it before, okay, let's do it. But if we're not sure how it's going to actually play out, should we, again, figure it out? Is it going to wind up on Ms. Curran's desk?
I think you should put it in, because I know that the criminal courts do have authority to require restitution. I can look up and get a better feel for the municipal courts, what they can impose. I mean, I'm not looking to start superior court actions to start collecting things, I can tell you that. I would be looking for the whatever court it's in to assess the requirement for the reimbursement. And now, again, how do you put together the investigative costs and all this kind of stuff? You're going to have to play that by ear. It's not like, the property maintenance where you go out, it costs you $1,800 to fix it, you do a certification, it's done, and that's easy. This is going to have to work its way out. It's just a restitutional provision that's put, that all these towns have in there.
Again, when it talks.
I mean, let me put it this way. Let's take the worst case scenario. If somebody challenges that and then there's some reason why you can't do it, then whatever court that's going to be is not going to impose it. That part of it, just that part of it.
See, to me, that's not the worst part. To me, that's great, because I don't want to be in the business of, collecting money and giving it to other parties
Right.
if we don't have a process to do it. So, again, I support this. I think it's, something that's worth doing. My only concern is that somehow Ms. Curran is going to wind up with a check for, $800 for a 4-night rental from someone on Van Emberg, and she's going to have to figure out who gets the money, how they get it back, and if the person left and, broke the toilet and is countering for, $200, are we like, going to become, is the court going to become like some arbiter of rental disputes? So.
Well, you know what I could do if you want, I mean, if you felt more comfortable, I'll tell you what I could probably do is write this up so that it leaves the burden totally in the court to handle in terms of assessing and collecting, and not put it on in our domain, so to speak.
That would be fine with me.
Just make a change along those lines.
Okay.
Okay?
I mean, that's my opinion. I don't know what everyone else thinks.
No, I agree. We shouldn't be, we would really be a landlord collecting fines for damage and stuff. I don't want to burden the town with that.
I think what it says, it's illegally obtained rental revenue, so it's when you see people renting other people's houses out without the permission of the person. Like, it'd be like me throwing Mike, I know you're not going to be home the next 2 weeks, so I rent your house out, collect all that money, and profit off of it because I know you're not home.
No, that's not what this is saying.
No.
No?
This is saying that if you...
Obtained from illegal rentals, I'm saying.
Well,
Rental.
illegal rental is anything under 30 days.
Okay.
So you put it on Airbnb, you rent your apartment or house or a room for a week, you're that illegal,
Rental.
you've
Okay.
attained that illegal revenue.
You're the guilty party.
You're the guilty party
that
for
puts
putting it on
Yep.
Airbnb.
It's
Yes.
renting it out. And the victim allegedly is the person who was renting, correct? I think the true victim would be surrounding neighbors,
Yeah.
to be quite honest with you. They kind of knew, and if you should research, is it legal in that town, but they're not going to do that.
Yeah, we have a separate discussion.
All right, John.
I'm sorry. I apologize.
Do we want to entertain leaving it as is, or?
No, I think
having
it's a
Mr.
good.
Pollard
No, I
change?
think it's a good idea. I think it's.
So you'll make some revisions, Mr.
Let me
Pollard?
just make a revision to C. I think it's a good point.
All right, so we'll hold off till Mr. Pollard's revision's made and bring it back to the next meeting.
Well, you know what, I mean, I can make the revision, get it out to you. It's only one small part, and then have it ready for you to introduce.
I'm happy to introduce it.
Can we
I mean,
introduce it with that revision? Everybody?
I mean, the revision, basically, the wording is going to be similar to the fact that the court whose jurisdiction is being exercised will have the power to impose restitutional fines and to distribute them to victims and...
As they see fit.
And just not have the town involved at all. So that's going to be the... And I'll get it out to you, and if you're okay with it, then you can have it for the next meeting.
So let's introduce
I'll
it
make a
to-
motion to introduce.
Motion to introduce.
Not now.
When next meeting.
Yep. Thank you. The next ordinance we had, draft ordinance we have prohibiting smoking in designated public places and within municipal facilities in the Township of Washington.
This was also one of those that there were several selections to be made. We took one, you designated one, and I tried to put it together. May have stuck a couple extra things in, who knows.
Did we include vehicles in here, Mr. Pollard? That's the only thing I couldn't find.
Just town vehicles.
Yes.
Yeah, I think they're in here.
Is this more expansive than it needs to be?
Got a change over here, it still says one part.
402-5D.
I think it is.
Like, do we...
More complete, if I remember. I did this like 2 weeks ago, but 2.5 weeks ago, but it is a little more expansive. It's more thorough.
But, so, I thought we were talking about...
I think like example, e-cigarettes.
No, so,
Okay.
my apologies. So, an ordinance prohibiting smoking in designated public places and within municipal facilities in the township. That's the ordinance. We're amending something.
Right.
And I look at 402-5D and B. I mean, any of these. Retail sale of tobacco products, aren't these on the books already? I mean, are we expanding these, or?
No, I think what it was these were ordinances from other towns that were selected. Remember, I came in with about 5 or 6 of these ordinances, and it was discussed which one to model it after. So, yes, I think there were things that overlap, but these were in their ordinances. I wasn't about to start, taking them out unless you want them taken out, but...
Under E, Mr. Paulo, we have to get rid of Wyckoff Township still in E.
You see that?
Yes,
That's
that was
what it
found.
was. Oh, you see that?
We're aware of it. We're aware of it.
My global search didn't get it. So there you know that's right. That's the one that you guys wanted was Wyckoff. Right?
Yes, that's the one we chose, was the Wyckoff.
You chose Wyckoff, yeah.
So should we clean this one up too?
There's nothing to clean up.
Okay.
Just to change Wyckoff to Washington.
Well, that's a cleanup.
It's already done, Mrs. McCann?
It's done.
Okay. It's already been changed.
I just have one question. One person approached me who works or volunteers for one of our organizations, and he said, would anything in here stop him from going outside the building to get a smoke, even though he's a volunteer, to either, I'll leave it very generic and say fire and or ambulance.
I think this went outside. If I remember doing this, it had the roadways up. Let's see if we can find that, because I think it was that area.
Okay.
So
It does include all our properties, Mr. Calamari, Mayor Calamari.
Yeah, parking area, driveway, driving aisle.
We are trying to prohibit people from smoking on any of our properties. That was the intent of this ordinance.
I agree, because I'm not a smoker, but, he's the person who brought up to me as a volunteer.
State law right now says that we shouldn't smoke within 25 feet of any doorway, which we don't enforce, however, anyway. But this prohibits it on all properties, so they would not be able to go downstairs and smoke outside.
As long as it's clear and, yeah.
It says all public parks, playgrounds, ball fields publicly owned or leased by the Township of Washington, and all property owned or leased by the Township of Washington upon which the public is invited or upon which the public is permitted, and where individuals gather for recreational activities, including all areas adjacent to such facilities, including but not limited to any parking area, driveway, or drive aisle. But that's for park and recreational. It doesn't, municipal buildings, all structures owned, leased, rented, or operated by Township of Washington, or occupied by township employees and used for official business in the Township of Washington. So I think that's pretty clear that they cannot go down and have a smoke there.
Yes.
So if the people on Memorial feel, for argument's sake, they have to go outside the fence to smoke?
And down the street.
Technically off the property. Across the state, have to go across the street, Tom.
Okay, so now what?
So we're just
We're
going to
okay
clean
to
it up?
introduce at the next meeting? Everybody okay?
Make a change, I don't know.
So we're putting the burden of enforcement on other individuals.
Enforcement by Police Department, Fire Department, Recreation Department, Department of Municipal Facilities, and Health Department, and as well as any other individual who observes a violation and wishes to file a complaint. So it's anybody, but plenty of agencies are there.
So any person seeking to enforce the provision of this article shall be authorized to file a complaint in the municipal court. So if I see Joe Smith having a butt, I have to...
You don't have to. You're authorized.
I'm authorized.
You don't have to.
And I would go while the court is open?
Well, you would...
Go to the police department, file a
Go to the police
complaint.
department and file a complaint.
Right.
Shall authorize to file a complaint in the municipal court.
Well, with the municipal court. It would be done through the police department.
So I would go to a police officer and say...
I want to file a complaint
I saw
against...
Joe Smith smoking a butt.
Better take a picture, too.
And you fill out the ticket, and you give it to them, and you go to court.
Not
if you
required
want.
to, not required to, but if you wanted, you would have to want to. You would have to actually want to file a complaint against somebody for smoking there to go through that.
Okay.
At least that's what Wyckoff had anyway.
So we okay to introduce this at the next meeting, gentlemen?
You changed the.
I'm okay with it.
You changed one.
Mr. Bruno?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you can introduce it. So.
Mr. Cumming?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Allman?
You want to think about this one for another go-round? It's up to you guys.
No.
All right,
No, pull the
Think we
trigger.
have enough to pull the trigger.
okay.
Mrs. Wachowski's already changed Wyckoff, so. All right. Last one is a draft ordinance regarding second kitchens and single-family residents in the Township of Washington. So gentlemen, we have the, Mr. Pollard's revision.
Well, no, this is no,
Just-
so
I'm sorry, can we just go back?
You want to go back to smoking, Mike?
Yes. Just one question. So we don't allow nicotine delivery products to be sold by ordinance, correct? We can't vape, we can't juul. Didn't we just pass that?
Can't sell, that's correct, yeah.
So why, again, in C, and maybe it's just duplicative or reinforcing, 4025C, or nicotine delivery products are displayed in all checkout counter notifying proof of age is required to purchase tobacco or nicotine delivery products. Why would we, if we can't sell them, why are we defining it, I guess?
Again, this is somebody, this is Wyckoff's ordinance. I mean, if you, I just wanted to, that's why I just want to preface it by that, so let's take a look at that. Because some of our other ordinances do overlap. I mean, I can tell you that.
I mean, if it's okay that they overlap,
Yeah.
but then, are they applied consistently? So shouldn't it say, rather than saying that it's, proof of age is required to purchase tobacco or nicotine delivery products, we shouldn't get to that point because you can't sell them. I'm up in C. I'm still in C.
Secretary Poster maintain signs of it. Well, this just basically is a notification generally. It's not to sell to underage people. It's just that they're advising you that they can ask for proof of age.
To sell something that's illegal to sell.
Well,
Where's it illegal?
where's it illegal? It's not illegal to sell a tobacco product.
It's illegal to sell.
To an adult.
It's illegal to sell, what do we call them, nicotine delivery products in the township? Because you shouldn't have them in your store. Didn't we just pass that ordinance?
Do you want to strike nicotine delivery product but leave tobacco? Because we're still selling tobacco.
I guess the point is, my point, I should say, is we just passed an ordinance where we've outlawed anything and everything related to vaping, electronic delivery of these types of products. I mean, we shouldn't see this anywhere in the township. We shouldn't see it. We do. So maybe because we're not enforcing that, we have to enforce this. So maybe it's good that it's on because we don't seem to be enforcing the electronic delivery and the nicotine product and the cartridges and everything else. So if we're going to allow them to sell it, even though we have an ordinance, maybe we should have an ordinance that says, well, you shouldn't buy this, but since we continue to sell it, let's have an ordinance so we control that we're not selling it to the wrong people. Because it's such a danger to the youths of the township. So, that's my point. So we could have duplicative effort, if that's what we want, to doubly reinforce it.
Are we seeing delivery systems sold in town, Mr. Ullman? Do you see it anywhere? In any stores?
Oh, yes, we are.
You see it? Okay.
And
so you're
the
saying
day
that,
after,
you're saying
the
that
day
we have an
after we
ordinance?
passed the ordinance, I wrote to the enforcement official and asked him, was he going to take a survey? And when the law, the estoppel period expired, was it going to be enforced? And he said, I don't want to misquote him, but essentially in due time it would be. But if you go to any of the known stores that carried them, they continue to carry them. So maybe we should leave it as is, because we certainly don't want to sell something illegally that's illegal.
Mr. Mayor, can you request the police department and Mr. Sedekase to review Mr. Ullman's statements about?
Can we do a sweep of known establishments, if that's the issue?
I didn't think we had to tell people to do what we passed, but I guess we do. So
And I don't mind there being duplicative ordinances, okay, or redundancy. I have no problem with that. At least you can say, well, I didn't see it there, but you could have saw it in another ordinance. And there are many ordinances in town that have that redundancy, not just this one. You know, we're doing the best we can. You know, it's a new ordinance, and I'm sure they're going to get to it. I hope they get to it sooner than later. But you know, hopefully we're working on it. There's a reason why we have these laws, and we expect them to be enforced to the fullest extent by our enforcement agency, whether it's the police department, building department, health department. That's what we expect. And if that's not being done, I would urge the administration to emphasize that.
I think just remember we had standing room only here requesting that we pass these as quickly as possible.
The administrator and I will address it.
Thank you. Mr. Ullman, do you want it removed, or would you be okay with leaving it?
No, that's fine.
Anything else, Mr. Pollock?
No.
Okay. Draft ordinance regarding second kitchens in single-family residence in the Township of Washington. An ordinance regarding second kitchens in the Township of Washington. We've added the presence of a second kitchen having one or more appliances for cooking, including ovens, stoves, or cooktops, shall disqualify a dwelling from being considered a one-family or housekeeping unit and shall be prohibited. Should that be, Mr. Pollock, should that be a two-family?
I'm sorry. No, because we don't permit two-family. Let me explain why this came about, okay? Because, you know, we do have a kind of a simplistic ordinance already that says no one-family dwelling shall have more than one kitchen. However, the problem came up where, when the revaluation was done, several houses were characterized as two-family residences on their assessments, and they were being assessed for two-family house. I guess the person who went in the inspection saw that there was a second kitchen. So this wasn't a situation where somebody was looking for a CCO or something like that. It was just the assessment aspect of things. In addition, the computer program for assessments has...
Can you put your mic back on, please?
The computer program for assessments has a category called type and use. And these houses, apparently, it was written two-family, okay? So you have a property record card that says it's a two-family, they're being assessed as a two-family, and so now brokers, when they're looking to sell a property, are saying, okay, this is a two-family residence, it's recognized as a two-family residence by the township, by official action of the township, They want to advertise it, and we're saying, no, it's a single family, and that shouldn't be there. And then the arguments go with the code enforcement official, and he's had several of these situations where he's had run-ins with homeowners, brokers, things of that nature. So in order to address the fact that we're talking about use and not assessment or anything like that, the code enforcement official requested, among one of the things he was looking for was an ordinance to clarify that situation. So what I did was to engraft on our use provision a couple things. One was the fact that it would be right in the area of what's a permitted use, what's not a permitted use, so that you wouldn't have to go hunting around for kitchens and work backwards. And even if you got the kitchens and it says one family, you thought you had a two-family, so this would kind of address it directly. It also puts some parameters into what constitutes a kitchen, which I put in here as having one or more appliances for cooking, including ovens, stoves, and cooktops. Obviously, if somebody has a small refrigerator, that's not necessarily a kitchen. A microwave is not going to be a kitchen. So that's basically what this was designed to do, was to identify that, to define it, and make sure you prohibit clearly in the use section the extra kitchen. Now that's important too, because when you look at the use section, you start out with I guess it's District A, the first one. This is where it comes from, and then each subsequent residential area refers back to the in their section to the usage. So it goes back to this. Now I drafted this up just as a to fix that situation, to address the situation, to clarify it, and to make it more palatable for the code enforcement official to demonstrate to any owner or broker that you don't have a two-family house and it's not permitted. I ran this ordinance by the code enforcement official. He's very anxious to get this enacted. In addition, I did talk to the assessor to find out if there's any way to change the computer program or whatever, use type thing. So there is another designation which he is now putting in there. He's putting this, I guess there's a word that they can use also called conversion. I don't know whether that means anything or not, but at least it takes out the use aspect of things. So he's putting that in so that nobody can focus on that and say the town says it's a two-family house, that kind of a thing. So that's where this is.
So, Ken, a house that, these mother-daughter homes that they call, that have a kitchen upstairs and downstairs.
They're not supposed to.
So what happens if they do?
Well, they have to take it out.
So we're saying only one kitchen, period.
Single family, one kitchen.
It's going to hurt a lot of the towns.
Unless they have a variance for a second kitchen, or if they've gotten a variance, that's one thing. If they were in existence prior to the zoning ordinance which prohibited that, they would be a non-conforming use. But I believe that, if I'm not mistaken, I got a list of the ones that that the assessor said were with this designation. I don't remember the exact number, but it was like in the neighborhood of 11 or 12 houses, that kind of thing. Now, that's...
It seems that realtors are the ones that are asking the
Yes.
question the most, because they want to sell it as a two-family versus a one-family.
It's worth more, exactly, right.
Any other questions, gentlemen, on this?
So right now, Ken, if someone has two kitchens in their house,
they're not supposed to.
They're not supposed to.
They were never supposed to?
Never supposed to, unless they did it before the ordinance was put into effect, or they got a variance subsequently.
Let's say, for sake of argument, someone has a a second kitchen in their house, and it was put in prior to the ordinance that was put into effect. Do you know what date on that, Ken? When that ordinance was put into effect? Any idea?
No.
No, okay. And they go to remodel their second kitchen. Does that open up a whole can of worms?
Well, yes.
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 Okay, so.
Also, if they try to get a CCO, there's another can of worms.
Yeah, because according to our CCO, if you have 2 kitchens, you can't get a CCO until you remove the second kitchen the way it sits right now.
But you have to remember, because they would never put, you know, when I say.
No, but I'm saying our
Yeah,
CCO right now
yeah,
says if you
yeah,
have 2
yeah,
kitchens,
yeah.
I can't issue you a new CCO until you remove one of them.
And what's the negative part of a mother-daughter house with 2 kitchens?
They're not prohibited unless they got a variance for it.
No, but I'm saying, let's say, I mean, so.
So if they got a variance, there's no question, Bob, it's if you did it illegally.
So if somebody has one, can they go get a variance?
Anything's possible.
After the fact,
Well, I don't know, I'm asking the question. I don't know if it's, if we go to someone's house and when I came into Township, I looked at homes, there were tons of mother-daughter homes with kitchens downstairs, outside, inside, garages, they were all over the place.
Well,
I didn't know anything about it.
according to the last assessment, there's only 11 houses that have this
I don't know,
situation.
I doubt it, but that's okay. So if someone has it and they say,
Somebody
I'm
has it
not gonna
right
rip out a $20,000 kitchen, so they apply for a variance then?
And if they don't get it, then they have to rip it out. I mean, right now, as our ordinances before we adopt this one, if you apply for a CCO to sell your house and you have 2 kitchens, in order for you to get that CCO, you have to rip one of them out.
Or get a variance?
Yes.
Well, before.
Or apply for a variance,
Apply for a variance.
guaranteed a variance.
Well, in the past, the problem was that up until, 7 years ago, you didn't need a CCO in the town. We didn't have a certificate of occupancy.
True.
So now that opens up a whole can of worms that people that have purchased a house that had a second kitchen that didn't need a CCO, if they go to sell the house, they're going to have an issue.
But that's the way it sits right now,
I
without doing this
I
ordinance.
understand that, but that is something that that we should all be aware of. You know, that's all I'm bringing to your attention.
Okay.
So I'd like to think about this one for a while and see if there's a way we
Mr.
can.
Sedekase has asked us to, he needs us to enforce his Realtor questions that he's getting on a daily basis on the homes he is getting.
Mhm. Well,
what would we like to have more information on, Dr. Cassian?
Ken, this ordinance, did you grab it from another municipality? Made this up on your own?
Yep.
Oh, he's working. Okay.
Actually, it's easier to do my own than to take from somebody else and start to
sometimes
make it meld into our code, that's.
Yeah,
I can tell
sometimes
you
it
that.
is.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. If that's the way it is, that's the way it is.
I will say this, if you take a look at 580-85, the existing ordinance, it's pretty clear. No one-family dwelling shall have more than 1 kitchen. That's pretty clear.
Yeah, it doesn't get any clearer than that.
It's not, we're not reinventing something new. That's
Right,
pretty clear.
You know, Ken, as well as I do, people move into a town, they don't read the whole, they don't read everything.
Yeah.
They sign on a dotted line, here's my 20%,
Well,
here's my mortgage.
Right. But they will also use, the other argument about, well, it's characterized as a 2-family, and it has, it's been taxed as a 2-family, and then it starts, and that's really what this is designed to do, is to clarify it and also define it.
Okay.
So what constitutes a 2-family, or we don't have them?
We don't have any in town.
We don't have any 2-families in town, Bob.
Theoretically.
Theoretically.
Yes.
Separate entrances, separate meters, separate cooking facilities, separate bathroom facilities.
There's a pre-existing,
So that's a 2-family?
That makes a 2-family. In most towns.
Separate entrances is the key.
Yes.
I think in most towns, that's really how they break it down, right?
That's right.
Is the second entrance.
And separate parties and a lease.
Yeah, but.
I'm sorry?
And separate parties and a lease, living under the same single-family house.
Right, well, yeah. I was thinking more along the lines of the mother-daughter situation, which would be a single entrance, right? With,
It always starts out with that nice terminology. It's a mother-daughter. It's a pretty nice.
It's a
terminology.
nice
Yeah, well,
thing.
you know
All
what
of a
I'm saying.
sudden, mother-daughter turns into two
my mother
different
lives
families.
downstairs.
right, yeah. Or now you have your adult children living at home. That could be a whole other situation,
Like
right?
that, but you want a little income,
Yeah.
so all of a sudden your mother-daughter becomes, I can rent you a place upstairs with a kitchen.
Great daughter, huh? Charging your mother. I gave you life. All right.
My friends had put, an acquaintance of mine had put a kitchen in Saddle River, down in the basement, for the adult daughter who lived with them in the same house. A full kitchen. They were forced to rip it out.
Did the daughter leave?
The daughter went and got married to a nice Paramus cop.
There you go. There you go. Get rid of the kitchen, you get rid of the daughter.
Right. That might be worth it.
Might be worth it.
Oh, who said
All
that?
right, moving on. Under financials, none. Miscellaneous, Mr. Pollard, the letter from Hutton Shemanowitz. Do you want to discuss that? Or?
Yeah, well, let me just discuss this much about it. So, just by way of short background, so Hutton Shemanowitz has requested that the town consent to the application of Viviano for the, I guess, the amended site plan and subdivision application. They wrote their letter. There's a group obviously opposing this, and Mr. Lamb was here tonight, a highly respected attorney in that field, and he wrote a letter laying out all the arguments of why we shouldn't consent. And I'm not going to go into those issues and stuff like that, but it is a long letter. And it is a complicated issue. It is very substantive in terms of what the arguments are. And so I think that since that letter was just received, I got that today.
We all did good, yeah.
Yeah. So, because yesterday was close. So, and I believe Mr. Lamb said that he was actually going to contact Mr. Shemanowitz to see if he intends to respond, because don't forget, Mr. Shemanowitz made the request, it was a simple request, and now he's faced with this letter, and he may want to reply to that, and Mr. Lamb wasn't sure that Mr. Shemanowitz got the letter. He sent it out, but he sent it out, I think by email. He's not sure he got it. So I think that this thing should be postponed. There's no particular rush for us to make a decision, nor should we make a decision until the situation is analyzed. So
Thank you.
I think we should do that. And I will say this too, that when the time comes to discuss it, it is a closed session matter. It involves an existing litigation, which is the original litigation, and certainly potential litigation. So it should be discussed in terms of what's involved in closed session. So I just wanted to put that on the table before we go any further.
Thank you.
Ken, I haven't had a chance to read this since we just got it today, but where does this leave the planning board at its next meeting? Because the next meeting will be before the next council meeting.
I think the planning board's going to have to postpone it, because if the consent of the town is required and there is no consent given, and there isn't going to be any right now. So unless they have just some procedural things that they want to take care of, and I don't know whether they do, it's really up to the special counsel of the planning board to see if there's anything they can. They really can't have a hearing, they can't do the normal.
Will you talk to the special counsel on the planning board?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Anything else, Mr. Pollard, on that?
Nope.
All right, moving on, gentlemen. Appointment of zoning board member, vacancy term expiring 12/31/2021. We received a resume from Mr. Dennis Moore, asking for him to be added to our zoning board. Does anybody have any objections to that?
Nope.
Any objections?
Nope.
I'm okay with it.
Do you make a motion to add Mr. Moore to the zoning board?
I'll make a motion.
No, I'll put a resolution, if you're all in agreement, I'll put into the resolution for us. The other ones.
What's that?
I'll put on the resolution for the next meeting, if you're all in agreement with that.
Yes.
So can I just ask, Mr. Moore is expressing his interest. There's a current alternate who was interested in moving from alternate to permanent. Is that not possible, or is it possible, but
She
it
can
needs
take the
action?
chance and resign from the board. She needs to resign from the board and then submit her resume to us.
Who is she?
So an alternate is a
The
permanent?
alternate does not move up, like I had said. We checked it with Mr. Pollard, correct? She
They
needs to
don't
resign.
remember that it's the term aspect of things. There's no automatic move up. Now, I don't know that you have to have a delay where she has to resign and then submit an application, a resume and stuff like that. I mean, I would think that,
Well, the email you sent was that she needs to resign.
Oh, she has to resign.
She has to resign.
That aspect, she has to resign, but I mean, she can get assurances, I think, if that's what you want to do, you want to make the alternate to be permanent, I mean, they should get a commitment from people that they're going to vote for them, but she does have to resign. The person does not automatically go up.
Okay.
Who is she?
I don't know. That's what Mike said. She? He?
He or she.
He or she.
Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize. You said she.
Because it's one on one.
Okay, I apologize.
You said she, didn't you, Michael?
I did. I thought it was, I thought we received an email from Tony Plantamora.
Yes.
I could be mistaken.
No, you are correct.
So Tony has been a alternate on the zoning board for a period of time. When the opening came up, she expressed interest in moving from the alternate seat to a full-time voting member of the board. So my only question is there an appetite? Well, one, could it be done? We now know how it has to be done. She has to resign and take the chance on being reappointed. Do we want to consider that and give her, some level of assurance that if she did resign, she would be reappointed, or are we not interested in that? So, she's dedicated time to the board. She took the alternate when it was available, and, when a permanent role came up, she expressed an interest in that. So what I would say is that if there's an alternate who has an interest in moving up, that we should consider that, as a application, for lack of a better term. And I would support, giving her that assurance that she could become a named member of the zoning board. That's my comment.
Yeah, so I would also. What?
I can't join you in that.
Steve? I'll just take a poll, right?
Well,
You're taking the poll.
If Ms. Plantamura wants to resign her seat and take a chance to come on, I have no problem with that. But the stipulation is she has to resign.
I understand, but you give an assurance that you would elect her.
She's been on the zoning board for a number of years.
Yeah.
It's not like as an alternate, she wasn't there, she wasn't there just in name. She has been active, so I would definitely give her a fair shot, no doubt about it.
I'm okay with it. Is it all right if we ask Mr. Moore to be the alternate?
Well, that would be, we're going to have to need an alternate, and I'm sure Mr. Moore would probably entertain that as well.
Okay.
I would imagine so.
So we prepare that, Sue? Once
Well,
we
you
get
have
Tony's resignation?
Does someone want to reach out to Tony and let her know what the...
Probably Sue should. Sue? No?
That's not, I don't think that's the clerk's job to do that.
Secretary should, right?
Or Jim.
Or who?
Jim.
Yeah.
Getz, maybe Mr. Getz.
Mr. Getz will have to.
Okay, I'll contact Mr. Getz.
Okay.
Let him know.
Following the last item, Board of Health stigma-free sign follow-up. I know the stigma-free logo's been added to all personnel, Mr. Tovo, correct, on their email accounts?
Yeah, I don't believe they're on all of them yet, but our IT guy's working on it.
Okay. Well, do we order the signs yet to put up by the Welcome to Township?
We had pricing for the signs, but I was going to offer a different alternative, a wooden sign that would mount at the bottom of the Welcome to Washington sign, something more permanent and longer lasting. I'm waiting for a price on it and design.
I would second waiting for a permanent rather than one of the, like a campaign type sign these are.
Correct.
So I would prefer a permanent one.
Yeah, I was thinking something wood with hooks that would mount to the bottom of the existing sign.
As long as it's plastic wood, not real wood, because it'll rot.
And it's not green and environmentally friendly. So recycled plastic, not virgin plastic.
Meet the green team standards.
Yeah. Motion to adjourn, gentlemen?
Do we have any?
No, Mr.
session?
Pollard has advised us we do not need to go into closed session.
So just before we close, what, from a council perspective, we've received about 90 pages of legalese. What is the next step that the council will be asked to do? Is there going to be activity between the two parties offline? Are they coming to you? Do we have to vote on something, or do we have to action something?
Eventually, you'll have to make a determination whether you're going to consent to the application before the planning board. That's what your job is. What goes on between them is going to be between them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you anticipate us having to take action at the next meeting?
I believe that you will have enough information and recommendations of what's involved for you to move at the next meeting. Whether you do or not, or you want to take more time to think about it, that's going to be your choice.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, thanks.
And in the meantime, Mr. Pollard, we should not discuss it or go to any planning board meetings or do anything to prejudice the application as council members.
That's right.
So, are we going in close?
I said no, Mr.
Okay,
Deputy.
so can we talk about, I had asked for Viviano property to be put on, but...
You wanted to talk about property maintenance.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't seen, pictures and read articles, and, I mean, so here's a lot, regardless of all this legal stuff that's happening, that's full of everything in the world in there. I mean, everything, based upon what I've seen. So if there was no development going on, I mean, we have an ordinance that strictly states about property and what's supposed to be on it and not on it and abandoned, and it names every piece of material that they have. So whether this goes on for years or months or days, what are we doing to clean up and get that stuff off that property from a code standpoint, which we have?
Well, the only thing that I think can be done at this particular point vis-a-vis that is notify the code enforcement official and let him do his inspection. Now, he said he did an inspection or he didn't do an inspection?
He did an inspection from the street, but the violation was required going on the property, and he has not been invited on it.
May I ask, was that specific to the complaint we received today about cutting trees down, or was it
No, he's been there
a
before.
broader?
But it's the same thing, he cannot go on the property, he can see, like, because the leaves came down, he could see some of the things in the back, but he cannot go on the property to actually do a proper assessment of what else is actually there. Are there drums there? Are there, you can see the...
Mr. Pollard, can we request that the Vivianos allow Mr. Sedekase on the property? Based on the complaints we're receiving from the residents?
Yeah, you can request it. I'm not sure that you're going to get any satisfaction with respect to that. And frankly, let me do this. Let's not talk about any more. I will talk to Mr. Sedekase about what he's able to do or not do. But let's not go any further with the discussions.
I don't want to prejudice ourselves.
Yeah, I get, so, okay.
Yeah, I will talk to him tomorrow.
I mean, I don't know, let's say, there's pictures all over the place.
I know, but you know what, let's not get involved with it, because the more
No, it's not even that. I'm just, again, it's just enforcing our ordinances.
Yes, I
Tonight, we
agree.
talked about
Yeah,
ordinances, we
right.
talked about smoking, non-smoking, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, and here we have a lot that's been there for years that's been ignored, just like some of the other lots in these towns. And this, you know, my point is, address the situation here and all these other lots that are smaller but look just as bad for our town. I mean, it's disgraceful that I mean, I can't believe what's back there. If
All right,
it is, it is. If it's not, it's not.
Mr. Bruno, we don't want to.
No, I know, but Mr. Sedekay should be on this. He should go, take a look, and, you know, get some good binoculars and look from the street. I'm sure he can see everything he wants.
Or Ken, again, just a quick question, don't answer it if you don't want to. If a property owner adjoining that property, but not from the street.
Let's not.
Okay.
Let's not get into this,
Okay.
okay? Let me just see what I can do with
Yep.
Mr. Sedekay.
Okay.
Motion to adjourn, gentlemen?
Motion, second.
Roll call?
Aye,
Yes.
Councilman Bruno?
Yes.
Councilman Casio?
Yes.
Councilman Cummings?
Yes.
Councilman Ullman?
Yes.
Council President Fasano?
Yes, we'll see everybody here at 9 o'clock on Saturday morning to have our first budget meeting. Thank you.